Many years ago, the author of 7 Steps to Start a Public Charter School made friends with a public school teacher named Veronica, whose students scored in the 95th percentile on state end of grade tests. These students were Black and Hispanic, and about 95% lived below poverty. Most were from single-parent households. Each cohort of these students that passed through Veronica's classroom portal was in the 95th percentile for the year that they were with her on the end of grade test. The students did not do as well the year before or the year after. This situation baffled school administrators. At first, the school administrators assumed that Veronica was cheating, so they observed, laid traps, questioned students, and investigated, but could not explain this teacher's success. So they asked the teacher what her secret to getting this 95 percentile performance from her students is. Veronica's response was troubling to the school administrators. She said, "I just teach." There are isolated schools around the nation which have phenomenal academic success with high poverty, racial minority students, which shatter all stereotypes and excuses as to why these students do not do well in the traditional public school system. At present, these schools are anomalies. When primary, secondary, and elementary public education began in the United States, the system was designed based upon a factory model. Like Henry Ford's assembly line, students would enter school in the first grade and pass through a series of learning experiences year by year until they came out the other end of the assembly line, eventually in 12th grade. A high school diploma was a stamp of completion and quality. The factory model treated all children alike as if they were widgets or a Model T Ford. The factory did not calculate for individual differences in students. This factory model became problematic over time. Some groups of students went in first grade, but were discarded or dropped out before making it to the end of the assembly line. Others took much longer than planned, but parts of their education were defective or missing. After World War II, the Japanese factory system underwent innovations and major transformations. The ideals of a Yale University educated American-born engineer and statistician, William Edward Deming, had a profound impact on the Japanese factory system. Deming believed that if you can identify the individual microtasks that are part of a larger manufacturing process and understand the relationship between the individual microtasks and the outcome or product, you can transform the manufacturing process and create efficiencies and increase the quality of the outcome or product. This revolutionary ideal catapulted the Japanese manufacturing system to the center of the world stage with a host of products, including automobiles, home appliances, electronics, and a host of other manufactured products. The process became known as Total Quality Management, or TQM. It also was known as Total Quality Improvement, or TQI, and sometimes it was called Continuing Quality Improvement, or CQI. TQM was applied to hospital operations, the military, and major manufacturing operations throughout the world. Public school systems have been resistant to TQM, TQI, or CQI. Charter schools are required to set academic goals for their students in the charter application process. Each year, schools work to increase their composite test scores, meaning they try to get as many students as they can to score at or above grade level on the intergrade test. Schools also attempt to show that each student grew academically. Some of the calculations for composite scores and growth scores are complex to someone not in the business of making these calculations on a regular basis. The ideal of data-driven instruction is borrowed from the concepts of TQM, TQI, and CQI. The Charter School Board and the Charter School's lead administrator should understand data-driven instruction. For example, under the Common Core State Standards for third grade English Language Arts, one of the standards is as follows. Describe characteristics in a story and explain how their actions contribute to the sequence of events. How difficult, really, is it for a student to master this standard with correct instruction? Teachers have many ways to teach it and help students practice it. This standard is typical of those required throughout the nation. There is a total of about 92 such standards for third grade English Language Arts across the categories of literature, information text, foundational skills, writing, speaking and listening, language, and range and quality. Thus, there is a total of 92 standards that students need to master for third grade English Language Arts. The State Education Agency typically publishes how each category of standards gets weighted on the end of grade tests, which narrows the teacher's focus to about 60 standards, which will impact the outcome of the end of grade tests. Also, many of these standards can be combined and taught as part of a single lesson, thus covering 2 or 3 standards in a single lesson. High-quality programs will use exit tickets to cluster these standards in groups of 3 or 4 and be able to demonstrate that the student completed those standards through some formative assessment, after which they give an exit ticket. The teacher will have about 180 school days, perhaps actually about 160 uninterrupted instructional days, to get all the students in her class to master about 60 standards or 30 groups of standards in third grade English Language Arts in classes that are about 60 minutes or an hour. The teacher has nearly 3 hours to teach these clusters of standards. High-quality charter schools require the teachers to prepare their pacing guides during the summer before students arrive. Teachers are required to think this through and have a plan to cover all required material before the students arrive. Most standards will not take an hour for most students to master. Now analyze math and science using these same methods as shown above. Apply data-driven instruction to English, reading, English Language Arts, math, and science across all grade levels. Every teacher must be trained to make this kind of analysis using the required curriculum standards. The standards represent micro skills or tasks that each student should know and be able to do by the end of the grade level. Teachers like Veronica understood the rules, the students, and the teaching environment so well that in her view, all she was doing was just teaching. The distinction between Veronica and also the 95 percentile anomaly schools and teachers across the country, the distinction between them and the traditional public school teacher in general is the level of detailed preparation and understanding of the big picture. Veronica was using total quality management or TQM without even knowing it. She was teaching one microdatum or micro skill or task at a time. She was spoon feeding it to the students in a manner where they got it the first time. The students were clear because the teacher was clear. The typical public school teacher does not see or understand the big picture, and they do not have a clear plan to achieve the results. Usually teachers get a pacing guide created by an administrator at the school district level or that is purchased commercially from a vendor. The teacher only opens the pacing guide when she writes her first lesson plan, if at all. Planning your charter school, you need to build a sacred instructional time where teachers and students have no disturbances to the instructional process. Teachers should have the time to prepare and be required to prepare during this planning time. The instructional leader should be required to provide teachers training in understanding the minutiae of data-driven instruction. The microtasks required to be carried out in the classroom on a day-to-day basis must be understood by the teacher and carried out to get results. With this approach, the outcome is predictable and measurable. Progress toward the goals must be monitored. The instructional leadership must be required to measure progress on the standards from the perspective of teacher delivery and student mastery. These measures should be monitored by the charter school board of directors, the school's lead administrator, and the school's instructional leader each 9 weeks without fail. The latter is the only way you can know which students need additional support, such as tutoring. This is the only way you are going to know for sure if the teacher simply lack the necessary skills or are unwilling to put in the work to get the job done. You have to be able to understand each student's progress. It will not take a whole year for each student to master the entire year's required curriculum in each subject. Let them master it and move on. Unimpeded individual progress is the defining characteristic of the 21st century school. Students must be able to matriculate as fast as they can or as slow as they need. The school culture must eliminate distractions and barriers to students' time on task. The key here is intelligent academic rigor. If there is one takeaway lesson here, it is a new educational management model that is called intelligent academic rigor. Intelligent academic rigor is defined by a laser-like academic focus on mastery of the key standard objectives as microcomponents of a high-performing academic school year. Your school's budget must provide for an instructional leader whose sole focus is implementing intelligent academic rigor in every classroom. Intelligent academic rigor is not teaching to the test. It is providing a rigorous instructional experience which prepare the students for the test by guiding them through the mastery of the micro skills needed to pass the test. Intelligent academic rigor frees up time to cover other materials the teacher would normally not cover. Intelligent academic rigor is an efficient method of application of data-driven instruction.